Welcome to Community Forum. My name is John Galiatino and I'm your host. This evening we're going to be talking to Eileen Coladarci, who's running for City Clerk, and DiCaprio, who's running for zoning. There is an election, folks, and I'm trying to get people on here and get them to introduce themselves for those that don't know them, and also get some of their points of view out. So enough said on my part, and on with the show. Eileen, welcome to the show. Anthony, good evening. First, tell us a little bit about yourself, so that for the people that are new in Danbury that don't know you, you're running for City Clerk.
I'm running for City Clerk. I feel I'm well qualified for the position because of a lot of my background. I was on the Common Council for 9 years.
Actually, I wanted to tell a little bit about how long you've been in Danbury, and your family, and that sort of thing.
Born in Danbury. I went to all Danbury public schools. I graduated from WestCon with a BA in political science and a master's in health administration. And I have a husband who was also born in Danbury. I'm living in a house the house is the same house that he grew up in, so we're very entrenched. We love Danbury. I've got 2 boys, both went to Danbury school system. And
all your life, and been involved in different respects in the community.
Yes, very much so.
Yes. Very good. And Anthony, the same thing. As much as you'd like to say about your route, as how you got to this point without getting into this.
I'll be happy to. Unlike Eileen, I am not a native Danburian, but I've been here since 1985, and the day that I got here, I fell in love with Danbury. Danbury is a wonderful, wonderful place to raise your kids, to live. And just the people are very, very friendly. The people, Danbury is a bunch of people that help. I'm in the mortgage business. I am also a tax preparer. I am the current president of the Rotary Club of Danbury Sunrise. I'm a cameraman for Community Forum, as we've spoken in the past.
Right.
Of course, I'm not doing the camera tonight because I have a different purpose here.
Right.
But, and I have a wonderful wife and 3 children, and I have been on the Zoning Commission since 1990, and I'm running again. We're going to give it one more try, and if I make it, that'll make 18 years.
Yeah, wow.
So that's my story in a nutshell.
Yeah, you have your zone.
That's right.
Okay. Okay, Eileen. Now, maybe we'll get a little bit. How did you get prepared to run? A little bit about your background as how you figured, okay, it's time to move on up. In other words, what do you feel makes you qualified in the past? You had 8 years on the Common Council, and maybe you can talk about the different things and as to how that gave you the experience to go for City Clerk.
8 years on the Common Council, plus I was also 1 extra year in 2003. That prepares me for City Clerk because the City Clerk is the one that is like a liaison between the Mayor's office and the Common Council. It's the legislative branch. It makes sure, I would make sure all the ordinances get filed up in Hartford, as well as all the postings in the newspaper, and work with the Common Council to make sure everything gets on the agenda. But I'd like to make it more than that. I'd like to make it more of an educational piece. I'd like to let the people know what they can do to make changes in the city, what they can do to let the mayor know there's a problem in their area, make it more than not in my backyard. I've also been involved with Danbury Youth Services. I'm now treasurer of Richter Association for the Arts. So I think all my experiences in all the different agencies, both state and local, all the nonprofits that I've worked with, I think it can enhance the education that I could provide to the citizens of Danbury.
You had some federal involvement there at one point too, right? Where you worked a little bit?
Not as much federal as state. I worked for Senator Maloney before he became a congressman, but I also worked a little bit on his campaign when he was working towards being a congressman.
Okay.
So.
All right. And getting back to the changes, you'll also make sure that all of the filings and postings are done in a timely manner.
Well, considering that's the main purpose of a city clerk, yes, I would always make sure that everything is filed properly, on time, and available to the people.
Right. Okay. Well, let's go back and forth a little bit. Anthony, what got you in, how did you first get interested in zoning, and I guess where are you going in this term?
Well, back in 1990, I was asked by then Mayor Gene Eriquez if I wouldn't run for zoning, and I said, well, certainly I'll give it a try. And I really didn't know anything about zoning at the time. But obviously, after 16 years, you learn quite a bit about it. But the Zoning Commission is a commission that's comprised of 9 regular members and 3 alternate members. And there's minority representation, so you can never have more than 6 regular members from one party, and then you have to have 3 minority members. And the same with the alternates. You can have 2 alternates from one party and 1 alternate from the minority party, whatever that party might be. The Zoning Commission is a land use commission, and what it does is it listens to petitions to change land use. And then we, after listening to it, we then take a vote on whether we want to change the land use or not. And we also do a couple of other things. One of the things that we do is we can change regulations, and we also give land use permits for liquor, grocery wine, beer, restaurant wine and beer, and those things. Now, we don't give the license. The state of Connecticut grants the license. But before they can grant a license, we have to permit it for that particular property. So in a nutshell, that's what zoning does, and that's what I've been doing for the past 16 years.
And what are some of the things you'd like improved over the way it's been done in the last couple of terms?
Well, I would say that the one major thing is that we really need to we need to take a real close look at these petitions and not try to rush. In the past, we've had a tendency to rush because politically it makes a lot more sense to rush them depending on who's around and who needs to do something. And
are you referring to the casino, the threat of the casino?
The threat of the casino.
That sped things up.
That's one of the things, yeah.
Right.
I mean, it had to be done then and there, according to certain politicians.
Right.
And as a result, we changed the zone and created a bigger monster than the casino could have been, because the casino wouldn't have been there anyway.
Right.
And there's no way that we prevented the casino from going there should it go. If they want to, if they get all the necessary federal approvals, they can go there and buy it from whoever owns it now.
Right.
So we really did nothing except create
another traffic zone.
We created a gold mine for certain developers.
Right, and we lost the industrial land that could have brought industry there.
So I've learned over the years, and unfortunately I was goaded into voting for that, and I feel that it was a wrong vote afterwards. I know it's too late afterwards, but I mean, if you make a wrong decision, you might as well admit that decision and then change it later on, and that's where we stand right now.
Right.
Yeah.
You'll be a little bit wiser on the next time around.
That's exactly right. Well, first of all, nobody's going to rush me anymore.
Right.
Okay. And I think that a lot of the commissioners feel exactly the same way.
Right.
These decisions that we make on behalf of the city of Danbury are for the people of Danbury. And if we rush it, we give them an unfair advantage.
Right. Eileen, we're going to go back to you now. I'm sure that there's some interest in how the city clerk works with the Common Council. In other words, I know these questions, but it's not me to ask. I'm basically asking for the people that are out there. When the Common Council is meeting, Does the city clerk take the notes? Was the city clerk's function at council meetings?
The city clerk will actually read the agenda and keep people informed of what's going on, what's next on the agenda. We'll just almost keep the meeting running smoothly. We used to have an assistant city clerk. Now I think there's just a clerk who comes in and just does a recording, does a transcriptions of the minutes. The city clerk will also then provide the minutes to the council afterwards, and now everything is online. So it's nice that the people will actually get to read the minutes and the agenda before the meetings. You can actually sign up for the agenda to be sent to you before the Common Council meeting. Go through it so you're well prepared to go and know what's going on. A lot of people don't even know this, so I think it's important.
Well, that's why I'm asking the question. I know there's been some changes, and most people don't know that yet.
As soon as I actually go on the Danbury site quite often just to see what's going on. That's part of my interest in our city and just to keep up with things. As soon as I found out that I can get the email, I now get an email that tells me about zoning meetings, EIC meetings. I get the agenda for that, and the Common Council agenda, and then the minutes afterwards. So it's very nice.
And it's very, very informative, especially if you're working in New York or working in Stamford,
right,
and you're coming in too late for the meetings. You can keep up on what's going on at City Hall.
And even if you can't go to the meetings, you can let your Common Council member know what your interests are, what you're against, what you're for, and I think that's important. That's what I'd like to let the people know. Even if you can't be there, it takes an email, it takes a note, it takes a phone call.
Right.
Your Common Council representatives are there for you. Right. They're supposed to be your voice, and we've got to encourage people to let that voice be heard.
Yeah, and is there any other innovations that you would make in addition to what is it?
Well, I think I'd also like to get out into more groups, whether it be the senior centers or just community groups, and let them know the same thing, the stuff that I'm explaining to you tonight, that our government should be open. We should have total access to it, and City Clerk can be the perfect venue for that. Okay.
Anthony, let's get to the mechanics of zoning. When does zoning meet for those that are interested in zoning matters? They've always said, well, I wonder who zoned this town or this particular area. Maybe we can talk about when you meet and approximately how long the meetings go and that sort of thing.
Sure. We meet on the second and fourth Tuesday of every month.
Right.
There we have, in the Freedom of Information Act, we have to post these meetings and these petitions. I believe it's 30 to 45 days in advance, and the Planning and Zoning Department does that. And then we sit and we hear the petition. We hear both for and against. And then we have the option of either continuing the meeting till the next meeting or closing it once we've heard all the testimony. And then we have 65 days to vote on that petition, to vote on whether we want to approve it or not approve it. We can approve with certain stipulations, and we can approve it or we can deny the application.
And how do you handle a crowd that comes in? Do you have everybody speak, or you just say you're going to have 2 hours of presenting stuff and then we got to cut you off, or do you actually sometimes have a meeting, come to an adjournment and say we're going to meet again next week because there's so many people here?
Yeah, depends on the petition, but certain petitions create a more of a public intensity and a public outcry than others. And we've had the entire Common Council room filled with people that are opposed or for a particular petition, and they all can come up and speak and give their version. We have the...
Let me interject that that's where you have your meetings. It's the Common Council
we have
meeting.
it on the Common
third
Council.
floor of the...
the third floor of the City Hall.
Right.
And just same place that the Common Council meets, only a different night.
Different night, right.
And if it gets too late, and we've gone as late as... the meetings start at 7:30. We've gone as late as 1 o'clock in the morning. And then we just, you know, we ask the chairman if we could continue this next time. If it depends on the situation.
You have more stamina than I used to have. We would quit the EIC meetings at 12.
Yeah. But again, it depends on the situation. Most petitions have 1 or 2 people speaking for and maybe 1 against. Some have none against. So it depends on each petition, what the nature of the petition is. And but I can tell you this, we're very reluctant to change a zone that goes against the plan of development. We have a plan of development. And if we feel that that should be industrial land, our propensity is to keep it industrial land. Now, there has to be strong and compelling reason why you would want to change it.
Like back to the casino issue.
Absolutely.
There's a casino coming. There's a casino coming. You had intense pressure.
Right. Yeah. Those are the types of things that you have to consider.
Right.
And it can get pretty, depending on some citizens that come in, it can get pretty wild. It gets pretty ornate, nasty sometimes. You know, people threaten to sue and do all of those things, but you know, we really have to look at each member of the zoning commission, and you have to vote your conscience based on the evidence that's been presented. And if you do that, then you can sleep at night. You may get the newspaper editor very upset with you, which has happened in the past, but you really have to vote what you truly believe.
Your conscience.
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
And you do. It's an exaggeration. They say to cut off the public because you try to accommodate the public as much.
No,
as you
we
can.
listen to everybody that has anything to say.
Right.
We have to do that.
Right.
I mean, we can request that they stop if it becomes an annoyance, if it becomes a redundant.
If they're saying the same thing over.
Yeah, if they say it over and over again, you know, we got that point already, so let's move on.
Right.
We can do that, yeah. But by and large, we listen to everybody that speaks their mind. And we take that into consideration when we make our decision. And remember that there are 9 people that vote that decision. So you might get 5 for and 4 against. So it's not always unanimous. And most of the time, it's not unanimous. And but it's by vote and majority rules. And if we get a negative recommendation from one of the commissions like EIC or Planning Department, then it has to be a 2/3 vote to approve.
Right.
So 2/3 of the commission has to vote for it in order to approve it if it gets a negative recommendation. And we always get a recommendation from the Planning Department or EIC or both,
right,
before we rule on it.
Good, very good explanation.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Eileen, there are 21 members of the council, okay, and things sometimes get hairy there.
Yes.
And entering all these, you know, sometimes exhibits into the record and what have you. Are all of these things kept in a certain spot? And is the public allowed to view this?
Yes. If you need to know to have an example of one of the attachments, you go into the city clerk's office, and she or I soon will be able to make you copies of it. You could even send it in advance saying you'd like this, and I could have it ready for you. For the Common Council, all these things get put together in a packet.
Each of the meetings.
Each of the meetings are all together in a packet. The attachments are with each one of them, and it's by month. And as it's coming in, that's how all the packets are made. They're sent out to the council the Friday before a meeting, and that gives them the weekend to look at it. They get them delivered by policemen for the most part.
Right.
And This way they have everything in advance. It's prepared for them so they can ask questions at the caucus, or they can call Corporation Counsel in advance saying, okay, I've gone through this, I've got
questions.
Total misunderstanding of this, can you go through it?
Right.
When I was on the council, I'd actually step in at Corporation Counsel and discuss some of the finer points before I'd even go to caucus, because you don't want to go in not knowing and then knowing you have to make a decision the next night.
Right. Now, once the meeting is done, is there a transcript of everything, all the motions and the seconds, and is that kept for so many years? Or,
yes, that will be kept, and now I think they've even put it on, it's all been archived, so I'm pretty sure you can go back farther and farther. But yeah, everything is...
Yeah, when you go to microfiche or smaller, you know,
yes.
they're putting it on discs. I'm sure
yes.
they can keep it indefinitely, because those discs last forever compared to paper.
Yeah. But everything is there. You can go back for many, many years. When I was on the council, I did a lot of the private roads because I was Ward 3, and so you'd have to go back and find out the records of when this road became public, why it didn't become public, and it's
why it remained a driveway but has a name on it.
And has a name on it. Yes, I had a few of those.
Yeah.
So,
and maybe the neighbors paved it, but they fool you into thinking the road was done by the city, but it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when it became a real issue is when you had snow.
Yeah.
And so you have the plows coming through and said, well, it's always been done. And just because it's always been done is not a reason that we have plows.
Yeah.
That would only be a public road.
It's not an accepted road, and only accepted roads can be plowed, or supposed to be plowed.
But when we had town versus city, you'd have a town meeting, and it was, okay, who thinks this should be a public road? All the ayes have it, and it was a lot easier then.
Yeah.
So that's why there are some
that that's why we're a city now, and
yes,
it's a little harder to do.
It is.
Now, another question for citizens. Let's say they were very interested in going to a committee and arguing something, and they want to see how their councilman went on the committee itself. Are those records kept, you know, the committee meetings?
Yeah, that's also part of the minutes.
Yeah.
The ad hoc isn't as detailed.
Yeah, the minutes are kept, but not necessarily all the discussion.
Right.
Okay,
so
that the records,
overview is there.
So the records of what happened in committee and before it even goes back to the council for action, that's all someplace.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Anthony?
I just wanted to say one thing regarding that. I believe firmly that we should have as much access as possible to any public meeting. And we do tape all the public meetings.
Right.
I know that there's been some controversy on videotaping common council meetings.
Right.
I am all for videotaping. I don't understand why we don't have it at every meeting. I just don't understand it. It's a classic sandbagging effort on the part of certain people that don't want it.
Okay.
It's easier to hide things if
absolutely,
if you don't have a camera there, or you're not, it's not being recorded.
And I mean, you know, I say that because we, being cameramen and doing those things, I mean, there's no reason why it wouldn't be. Why wouldn't you have? I mean, you have somebody do it. That's all. Simple as that.
Yeah.
So to this point in time, zoning meetings are not...
We do not have them videotaped. They are on audio tape.
Right.
Every one of them's on audio tape.
EIC has been for a long time. It's audio tape.
Audio tape.
But
no videotape.
There's no reason why major commissions like zoning and EIC shouldn't be
videotaped. Yeah, absolutely.
Because they do a lot of
because video
there's lots of impacts.
Video gives you certain innuendos that you don't have on audio.
Right, that's true. Important point. Any other reforms?
Well, no, I just thought I'm going to get off my soapbox, but that's one of the things that I feel very strongly about.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why any council member would try to stonewall that, and I think that they're doing that.
I agree with you. Yeah. I think that's very important.
Now, I guess that would have to go to Common Council from the zoning.
I'm sure.
They're saying we'd like to get it covered.
Absolutely. I'm going on record. I'm sure that they'll be watching.
Very good. Now we've got about 5 minutes left. Do you have any other things that we'd like to, you'd like to suggest about how to change? You mentioned going out to groups. Would you want to do the circuit, let's say, and go around to all of the?
Probably. I think at least in the beginning, just all the community groups and the senior centers, but I think it should also be like an ongoing thing into the schools. It's more like how a bill becomes a law, you know, the old-fashioned, this is what you can do for your city, this is what you could do for your government.
How can a citizen, here's a point that I just thought of, how can a citizen get onto the agenda? Let's say they got a complaint. Geez, this road, there's always water coming down when it's raining heavily, and that isn't getting fixed, and I've called the highway department and they never seem to get. How can they address that if by way of common counsel? Isn't there a way that they can write?
Basically, they just write their complaint and you submit it to the city clerk. City clerk will put it right onto the agenda, and it'll either go to committee, it'll go to the right department. This is a way of streamlining where the complaint goes, because many times it can go to 4 different departments, and this way it goes, okay, this one first, this one second, this one third, report back to the council, you've got 30 days.
Right.
And so you'll get an answer.
Or the council can immediately start working on it. If it's something that's, oh yeah, we've been talking about that for a while, let's send it to a committee to act on it and then recommend a new sewer or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, they can do a referral to a a department, or they can
make the decisions.
So any citizen of the city of Danbury can do that, write a letter saying I got a problem, and then it goes on the council agenda and it can't be taken off by somebody.
They do try. They do try to take it off.
That's the people's court, so to speak.
Right. And if it does get taken off, you go to your own council person and discuss it. If you don't know who it is, that's again, come back to the city clerk. We'll discuss which one is going to help you, because there are going to be some that are for it, some that are against it, and the city clerk will know which general idea to go to.
Now, zoning matters. Let's say somebody's got a problem with the way something was. Can something be reconsidered on zoning? Let's say a decision's been made, or let's say something is pending, or something is there a way of reconsidering something, or is that it's too late once it's done? We got about a minute left.
Well, once it's done, I mean, that's the decision. You certainly have several avenues to appeal. You can appeal to the planning, you can appeal to the mayor, you can go to court and say this is a wrong decision. And you also have the opportunity to somehow change part of the application and resubmit it, and maybe that part that's changed makes it more favorable to get a better decision. So you have all of those things. I know we're running out of time, so I'm going to leave it back to you.
They're waving to me, so I want to thank you for coming on the show. I want to thank the viewers for tuning in to the Community Forum. Tune in next week, same time, same station. I'm sure we'll have another interesting program. Good night for now, and we'll see you then.